All right, here we are. Welcome to the Tulsa Life podcast. We are excited today because we have Howard Doak with us from Cityscape Home Mortgage. Good morning, Howard.
Good morning.
So here we are. You've been a guest with us before.
Yep.
So you were so great that we said we have to have you come back because there's so many things that we'd like to kind of go through. And I don't want to say teach, but I think this is a really cool, unique opportunity for us to be able to help a lot of people. So thanks for being here today.
Thrilled to be here.
Okay, so what we're going to do today, and one of the things that you and I are both very passionate about, is we really want to speak to the people that maybe don't know if they can buy a house, don't even know what it looks like to buy a house. One of the things, an example that was given to us is like maybe a college graduate, you're just graduating, you don't know if you're going to go rent an apartment, but you've got your first job. You're not sure if you should rent, if you should, try to buy a house. What do you have to do to be able to buy a house?
Exactly.
So I think today we're going to kind of unpack a little bit of how to buy, and let's start with our first-time home buyers. Like,
perfect.
How to buy a home. What does that look like? So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. Just reintroduce yourself for everybody. And that way they know that what piece of this puzzle that you're bringing into this conversation today.
Fantastic. Well, my name is Howard Doak. I run Cityscape Home Mortgage, which is a branch of AMC here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We lend all across the state and in Texas and Arkansas. And in our state, we are the number one purchase lender. So I'm thrilled to be here talking about helping first-time home buyers. And I even think of, when you talk about first-time home buyers, it can also be that home buyer who hasn't bought in many, many years.
Right.
Because
so different stages of life or people that have rented for years.
Exactly.
I think there are so many people because they don't even understand the process, that it's very intimidating, that it can be something that they just go, I don't even know where to start. And it sounds really hard. And so I'm just going to keep renting and let somebody else pay the mortgage. So let's back up even a little bit further. And today, for lack of a better term, we're going to try to dumb this down a little bit. So we're going to try to go very, very basic, very, very elementary type, things that we're going to talk about today. So when you start throwing out words like a lender and, we're with AMC and all of these things that, number one, no offense, but most people don't care who you're with.
Correct.
And number two, a lot of times they don't even know what that means. So what your piece of the home buying process would be is the financial side.
Correct. I've been for 22 years, I've been helping families qualify to purchase a home. It's probably a much simpler way of saying what I do.
I love it.
Yeah.
And the other misconception, I think, a lot of times is that you have to have a ton of money saved to be able to purchase a home. So let's kind of go through the process. First of all, I think that having you here today is a fantastic way to start talking about how do you buy a home. Because number one, probably first and foremost, you need to know how much money do you need to have saved, how much money do you need to have available, and how much money is it going to cost you buying the home and after you've purchased the home.
Exactly. And I would say the two kind of roadblocks in people's minds to buying a house is my credit good enough to buy a house, number one, and do I have enough money to buy the house?
Perfect.
Those are the two roadblocks that many people continue to rent versus buying because they think those things are roadblocks for them that are real. But the truth is that I see people every single day who judge their personal situation negatively. And then once we look at it with them, they can buy today or they're really close to being able to buy.
So I think that, one of the things that living in America, I feel like a lot of the whole vision of being an American is being able, the American dream. The American dream is there are no limits.
Correct.
You can do whatever it is that you put your mind to do, and we are not restricted by so many things. And one of the other things that I love is that home ownership is a dream for so many people that is not attained sometimes because they think that it's a lot harder than it is. So credit worthiness, let's start there. So if you don't know your credit score, you can easily find out your credit score. So you can do a lot of different things. You can go to creditkarma.com. You can pull, I think you can go directly to like Experian. There's 3 different, okay, you tell, this is more your world.
Perfect.
So tell us
no problem.
credit.
There are 3 different credit bureaus out there, and you can get yearly 1 free credit report. And the thing I would tell the consumers out there is the best place to find out your credit score to help you buy a home is to go directly to the credit bureaus, or even better yet, go ahead and apply for a mortgage.
Okay, perfect. So see, people think that a lot of times I'm not going to apply for a mortgage because number one, I'm not ready to buy a house today.
The sooner you do it, the better. I mean, I've helped people, that are ready to buy today, and I've helped people that are like a year out. That they're
Or
like,
longer,
hey, or longer.
And sometimes what happens is, so even if you're not ready to buy a house, you haven't even thought about buying a house, it wasn't even on your radar, and now you're like listening to this podcast and you're like, oh my goodness, maybe I should at least just see what that would look like. So what a mortgage lender can do, is what Howard is they can actually just take an application.
Yes.
This application is basic information about yourself. So it's gonna say my legal name, my birthday, my social security number, all the things that everybody's always so scared to give. So
And
don't
the
be
thing
scared.
I will tell you is that I always tell every client, the information on the application, they're all things you already know.
Yep, they are.
You're going to be able to do it on your phone. You're going to be able to do it on the telephone, or our application that we can send you a link that is a secure online application. That's where a lot of consumers like to do it today. I personally still love an in-person or by phone talking to somebody application, but many people today just love the application.
So you have all the options.
We have all the
options. Online, in person, over the phone, doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So you're going to go ahead and get in touch with somebody, even if you're not ready to buy a house. I don't care. It's almost like going to the doctor when you're not sick. It's like, let's just go and get everything checked out, make sure that everything's good.
So one of the things that consumers hear all the time is pulling my credit's going to hurt my credit.
Oh.
Pulling my credit's going to hurt my credit. Well, yes, it does when you look at consumer credit things. And think of like your auto loans, your credit cards, consumer debt like that. If you go out and apply for 10 credit cards, the assumption from the credit bureaus is you're getting turned down. It's the opposite when it comes to a mortgage pool. They look at one mortgage pool or 30 mortgage pools the same.
So I'm standing in line at Banana Republic, and they say, if you apply for a credit card, you can save 10% today. And I go, okay, go ahead and do that. That is a credit pool.
That's a hard credit pool, which is like ours. But the difference is that if you applied with me today and you applied again in 2 weeks, same pool.
Yep.
Whereas if you go to Banana Republic and you applied for that credit card, and you go to Sears and apply for one, and you go to
Sears.
Saks
Who goes
and apply
to
for one.
Sears? Who goes to
I don't know why I
Sears?
said Sears. That just aged me, and I just had a birthday. So
Most
let's
of the people don't even know what
Banana
Sears
Republic
is.
and Gap. I know. I don't know why I said Sears.
Teasing.
I know. Well, it came out of my mouth, and I wondered, are there Sears still?
Nope.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so basically what I'm trying to get us to is like, this is no different than, this is not scary stuff.
It is not.
This is like going, to, like we said, Banana, and them saying, hey, we're going to see if you are eligible to get a discount. So this is going to give you just an overall look of your credit health, credit worthiness. Questions will be asked about how much money do you make? How much money do you spend? So it's a very, very basic application. It's not hard. It can be done in like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. 5-10 minutes. We're going to ask basic questions. Where you've worked and lived for 2 years, how much money you make and how you're paid, and if you have any outstanding debts that are not going to show up on your credit report.
Right.
Those are the basic information. And then those questions may prompt additional questions. But again, they're all easy questions that the consumer can answer easily.
Right. These are questions that, and like you said, I love it that you say that you have people that will like even talk you through it, over the phone.
Correct.
So this isn't something scary. It's not hard. It's as easy as getting a credit card at Banana Republic. So I'm trying to break this down so you know this is not a scary thing. So you're gonna see what your credit looks like. This is the really, really cool thing. It might not be what you think it is. And most times I feel like people who prejudge themselves and think that they can't buy a home are so many times the people that find out you can buy a home.
Correct.
And you are approved to buy a home. And here are the things, here's the roadmap of how you do it. So a credit application, and you can do this a lot of different ways. The easiest way is just to call Howard and his team, and they'll walk you through that entire process. So if you want more information on that, that's easy to get. That's the first piece. after you know, and so let's say that somebody does find out, like a college kid coming out of college, and they haven't started their job yet. They are pretty certain this is where they're going to be, but there's a lot of like just things that are kind of up in the air, but they know they're going to, be here in this area in Tulsa, and they're just looking at their options. What I think is so amazing is that you can give them a plan. So let's say that this college kid doesn't have any credit cards, they don't have any debt. They've never had any type of loan, never had any type of credit being built up. You can help them, and you can say, here is a way that we can show you the way to home ownership.
So our team and any qualified mortgage lender should be able to do this for you is that we have a system that will analyze your credit and give you suggestions to improve it for free. We can also do a what if analysis of your credit that will tell you, well, if I pay this credit card down, it will increase my credit this much. Or, like you said, if I add
open a Banana Republic card, right?
What will it do for me if I do that? And so what we're able to do with that is we're able to look at somebody with no credit or somebody who may not have the best credit and to give them suggestions on how to improve it.
Yep.
Without going to a credit repair company that's going to charge you hundreds of dollars a month. It's a free service we offer to all of our clients.
It's in my opinion, it's a little bit like having, and I know you're not a financial consultant, but it is almost like having somebody who's looking at your financial health and saying, here are the things that we can show you. If you take this path, we can get you prepared to be able to buy a home. A lot of times this happens really quickly. Sometimes it might take 6 months.
Correct.
Sometimes it might take a year. Depending on the other thing, and I don't want to get too hung up on things on your credit that can hurt you, but I think people prejudge a lot of things like, oh, I had a credit card that I didn't make consistent payments on when I was in college. Or, I actually I had a house that I had bought previously and I haven't bought a house in 10 years because that house, I didn't make my payments and I had a foreclosure on my home, or I had to file bankruptcy. So there are all these different things that happen in your life that have an impact on your financial health. And I really like that. I really like that phrase because I think that this is the thing is you can recover.
Absolutely. Time is the best thing about that.
So don't prejudge. Don't prejudge where you are in your life, whether you're young and you don't think that you have any financial health, or that you feel like you're maybe have had some things that have happened that have damaged your financial health. Don't prejudge that. The best thing to do is to talk to somebody. Talk to somebody.
Exactly. So that's a really great thing to talk about. So, for example, back in 2008, America went through the worst mortgage crisis that the world has ever seen. And many, many, many families experienced bankruptcies, foreclosures, things that were unforeseen and unable for them to do anything about. They were perhaps in markets like Nevada, Florida, where their housing prices dropped
Phoenix, yes.
40%. Well, and that might have been 35% below what they bought the house for.
Right.
So suddenly their, $100,000 house is worth $40,000. So families were unable to do anything about that. And so, but those same families today, they can buy again. If they've reestablished credit and time has gone by, it doesn't mean they're out of the market. They may be ready to purchase today.
Yeah, don't prejudge. Don't prejudge, your credit. Don't prejudge what you think you can or can't do. Talk to somebody who can help you, who can look at, your application and then go, here's the outcome of this. And guess what? Here's what we can do. And that's going to be a guess what, here's what we can do. You can buy a house, or guess what, here's what we can do. We can help you get prepared to buy a house. It's not a yes or a no.
And it's not a negative thing.
No.
All it is good information. We're here to help consumers and home buyers know what they can and can't do today and help them prepare to buy down the road.
Okay, so in preparation, we've done the application. You've been able to say, Aaron, yes, here's what you can do to get prepared. This is what I love about what you do and what your job looks like. You get to tell people like me or a home buyer that says, I'm a first-time home buyer, and you go, Aaron, this is how much money you're making. If you're comfortable with this much payment, here's the amount of a home that you're able to purchase. So if that's a $200,000 house, a $300,000 house, $4,000, and so forth, you can tell me if you buy a $300,000 house right now, this is the average monthly mortgage payment that you will be looking at. So you can not only tell me, am I qualified to buy, but now you can tell me how much is that going to cost me every single month and how much money do I need to be able to prepare to buy? Because there are things that I think people don't always understand. When you're purchasing a home, there are what is called closing costs. So anytime that you're, having a service, let's say you're going to buy a vehicle, there's money associated with purchasing that vehicle, whether it's a down payment and they tell you what your interest rate is and then what your monthly payment's going to be. But how much are they requiring from you?
And this is a really good way to kind of segue just briefly, and we could talk for the whole segment on interest rates. We could. But what I've emphasized my whole career in mortgage lending is it's not about interest rate. It's not about the home price. It's about the budget. What can your
Yes.
family afford? That's what you want to know from a good mortgage lender. And I liked what you said earlier about it's almost like a financial advisor. It really is a financial advisor. It's a mortgage advisor who's going to sit down with you. And the very first thing I generally ask somebody when I'm lending, and I don't do as much of it as I used to, is I will ask somebody, what's the house payment you want? I start and work backwards because that's what's most important to a family. It's not,
So good. And so many
I want
people,
something this
so many
price.
people know what it costs to rent. So I think that what we see a lot in our business is somebody comes in and they go, well, I'm currently renting and my monthly rent is $1,000 or my monthly rent is $1,500. And a college kid might come out of college saying, I've been living in the dorms or I've been living with 3 other roommates in a house that we've been renting. And so, I've only been $400, $500 a month. And now knowing that the rental market,
It's
number
going up.
one, it's very difficult, in my opinion, to find a comparable rental for what you can purchase for. And that's almost true for pretty much any market that we've seen. I've been in the business longer than I can't believe. But throughout the experience that I've had, the people that come and they say, especially if they are looking to rent versus buying, we can almost always find them a home that is comparable, if not better, than what a rental would be for them.
Well, and rental prices all across America are going up. There's a shortage of rental properties in most all markets, especially even in ours. And you just don't get a great house. Early in the conversation we
And
talked about,
you don't build any
and you
wealth.
don't build,
You don't
the
build
number
any equity.
one, the number one wealth builder in America,
real estate.
period, is real estate.
It's real estate.
It has been, and it will always be where people save the most money. It's a part of the strategy for retirement,
I would
wealth
say
building.
any of the wealthiest people that you know, and this is for every listener, if you know somebody who's pretty wealthy, see how much real estate they own.
Correct.
And that is usually where that wealth building begins. And so as a consistent rule of almost the entire makeup from when, anything was statistics being reported, you can see consistently a home is one of the best appreciating assets you can ever own.
It absolutely is.
So
Even
when you're
back-
thinking of renting and you're thinking of buying, that is something that I always tell people is that it's not just that you're renting and that you don't have to worry about things that break or, you don't have to worry about if you want to move and the flexibility. It is throwing money to somebody else's wealth.
Correct.
So you are building somebody else's wealth, which is fine. And that's what makes the world go round. But if you think that you're ready to make that leap and to actually buy a house, like it almost always is an amazing decision. So,
and and you also you look at your budget and you think, okay, I'm just going to rent for a couple of years, and then you suddenly realize it's
couple
been
years
a decade.
turns, right.
We met with a client the other day who for 20 years has been renting. That client could have paid for the house and the amount of rent that they have paid.
100%. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about down payment. Let's talk about costs associated with purchasing a home. And let's start with down payment. And again, let's keep this very simple because I think that we don't need to go into, yes, are there a lot of different ways that you can purchase a home and a lot of different loan vehicles? Yes. Does that really matter to everybody who's listening right now? No. It is going to be specific. Again, this mortgage advisor is going to be able to tell you what program fits you best. But just so our listeners know, there are homes that can be purchased in the Tulsa area for 0% down.
There are as little as 0 down mortgages out there still today.
So zero down, and when we're saying zero down payment on the home, just so everybody understands what that means, is basically what you're putting. If you're buying a house that's $200,000 and you're putting a down payment of, let's just say 10%, then that would be $40,000. So people think 20% in their head, right? So they've always heard this rule of thumb. To buy a house, you got to have 20% down. And that means that you're putting 20% down towards the cost of the home.
And it's been a long time since we've had to do that. And, after, over the years, things have, become a little bit more conservative in how we qualify people. But that has loosened up in recent times again, where there are many options, including down payment assistance. That's that program we were just talking about, being that it takes zero out of pocket from a consumer to put down on the house. There may be closing costs and other things that are associated with that the seller can pay on your behalf. But there are 2 or 3 loan programs, like you said, I'm not going to get into the specifics of those, that allow for a zero down payment loan option for the consumer.
So that's the lowest.
That's the lowest.
That's the zero entry if you qualified, if the house qualified. That's the perfect scenario if that was the option that you're looking for. However, I would say most of the buyers that we work with put somewhere between, there's a loan that is a 3.5% down payment. So let's use easy numbers. 100,000 is easy number to use. So if I'm buying a $100,000 house, my down payment is $3,500.
Correct. And I would say today, just like you said, it's anywhere from 3% to 5% of the averages, because there is a conventional 3%. The FHA is the 3.5% that you mentioned. And then a lot of people do a traditional conventional loan, which is 5%. Those, I would say, make up more than 50% of all the purchases.
I would agree. So that most of the buyers that we're working with are doing somewhere between that 3 and 10%.
Correct.
So here's the next thing too, is that when you put that down payment down, the amount that you're financing, so if you put down, let's just say $3,000 on a $100,000 loan, you're financing $97,000. So it's $100,000 minus your 3%, your $3,000, you're financing $97,000. You're also going to have closing costs associated. So let's walk it through like we were a first-time home buyer buying a $100,000 house, because that's an easy number to use.
Yes.
And I am going to be getting a loan that requires me to put 3% down. And then I'm also going to have to pay for my closing cost. So whenever you're purchasing a home, there are a lot of different things that are coming into play. Number one, getting a mortgage. Any mortgage that you get, they're going to say, hey, we're doing all of this work for you to help you figure out how to finance this. There is a fee with that. We're also going to need to rely on our title companies. In Oklahoma, what we do is called abstract. So an abstract is making sure that when you get down to purchasing your home, you know that nobody else has the ability to come back and say, that's my house, or you owe me money, or somebody didn't pay a bill somewhere that's attached to this home. So it's almost like when you buy a car and you get that title, and that title comes to you, and that is, you have ownership of that car. It's the same way with real estate. So you need to make sure that nobody can come back and say that somebody has any type of ownership on this home. So we have title companies here that do all this work for you.
Tons. We're simplifying it.
So they take care of that. You're going to help with the mortgage side. Your real estate agent is going to help you with all the contracting, finding the perfect home, getting you through inspection periods, everything that you can imagine. There are people to help you with this, but there are fees associated with everybody that's helping you make this your home.
We figured up that there's approximately 33 people that are involved in a home purchase transaction.
And you know who does, I think, the least amount of work is usually the buyer. Like,
exactly.
I mean,
you have a team.
Because you have a team.
33 people working for you when you buy a house. And half of them you'll never know, never talk to.
Never even see that they're doing that work.
Never see that they're doing that, but they're out there helping you to buy that house.
That's right. Yeah. So there are some taxes associated with it. There's some fees for recording it. So when you actually purchase your home, we want to make sure that it shows that I own that home, and now everybody can see in the world that this is my house that is on the tax records. So all of these things that are being done for you that you don't have to worry about cost.
And then on top of that, you also have prepaid items. So most consumers think of closing costs being what does it cost for the lender and the title company, but also a lot of people think of closing costs encompassing those numbers as well. So closing costs we just talked about, the lender fees, the title company fees, the recording fees, all of that. But then there's also what are called prepaid items. Prepaid items are a reserve account for your escrow, which is your taxes and insurance.
And an escrow account, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
An escrow account is basically just a little account that you don't have access to that's set aside to say, we have money set aside to pay for these items. That's all escrow account is.
And I always describe it like this. Every single month, we're going to take 1/12 of the yearly taxes. We're also going to take 1/12 of the yearly homeowner's insurance, and we're going to put it in that account. And think of it like a piece of like a pie. We're going to put a slice of that pie back into that until it becomes whole again, and then we pay that object out.
Because again, as a mortgage advisor, I love that you said that, so I'm going to start using that. As a mortgage advisor, you're gonna help me as a home buyer to say, listen, we're gonna tell you all these things that are required, and you're gonna have to pay taxes. Yes, everybody has to pay taxes. Nobody can avoid it. It's the American dream. It's the American way. But we know that there's taxes. We know that there's insurance, and these are the things that frighten people, especially who have rented and that haven't always known this. But when you give us our financial plan, you're taking all of this into consideration.
And when we give you a home payment, we're going to include 4 things, sometimes 5: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, PITI, plus, if applicable, mortgage insurance. We won't get into what mortgage insurance is. That could take all the time we have. But we're going to give you a total monthly payment. We're not going to just give you principal and interest.
Right. So when somebody comes and you say, this is your payment, you know that is them being able to manage that home, whatever it costs for that home, and for them to be able to pay every single month, all of that is included.
Correct.
So I love that, because somebody can go, well, what about this? Nope, we've already accounted for that, and here's the payment.
And sometimes people, they'll say, I don't want to have an escrow account. Well, I have an escrow account. I think most people have escrow accounts. Why? Who wants to write a big check for your taxes in December?
Not me.
And it's a non-interest bearing account, so no one's making money on your money.
It's just holding it back a little bit every month to know that when that tax comes due, you've already paid for it.
It's budgeting for your family.
That's right. So we can budget. We can help you with the down payment. So closing cost. When somebody comes, we can tell you exactly what it's going to be. The really cool thing is when we work together, and this is why I love our partnership with all great people that we work with, whether it's title companies, whether it's your company, Howard, which is Cityscape on the mortgage side, we can confidently help our buyers know before we even go look at homes or get a home under contract, this is what you can expect.
Yes.
No
surprises. That's what it's about.
This is what we want to tell you. As prepared as you want to be, we want you to be prepared. And then we can come back and say, now we know that, let's say I'm a college kid. I just graduated college and I haven't had any chance to save up. There are options. There are really creative ways that we can even say, hey, if you still want to purchase a home, here's basically the minimum of what you're going to have. And now looking at your whole financial picture, we know that if closing costs on this house are $5,000, $6,000, if we're talking about a $100,000 home, I'm just going to give some ballpark estimates that, if you're putting a down payment of $3,000 to $5,000, and then your closing costs are probably going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000, you probably need to be thinking, I need about $10,000 on average to buy this home with my down payment and closing cost. Now, the really great thing is,
we're going to say the same thing.
Yes.
Guess who can pay the seller? The seller of the home you're purchasing can help you pay those fees.
Because I'm a college kid. I don't have $10,000.
You don't have $10,000.
That's right.
So there's so many ways. And again, our whole goal was to bring this down to a really elementary level. So I will just say it like this. That $11,000, you don't always have to have $11,000.
Right.
If you've got $11,000 saved up, fantastic.
Right.
Pay it yourself. But if you don't, we can go in and ask the seller to pay a portion of those fees. You can do one of those OFA loans I talked about earlier, which is a zero down payment assistance. Or let's say your mom and dad want to help you, or your uncle wants to help you.
Right.
There's many ways that you can come up with that down payment as well.
So don't prejudge.
Correct.
Don't think that just because you don't have $10,000 sitting in your bank account, that's, just sitting there, not don't need it for anything. So I'm just going to go buy a house because I've got 10 grand. If you don't have $10,000, if you don't have $5,000, if you don't even have $1,000 to your name, don't prejudge what you can do. And the other thing is I think there's power in a plan. And so I would tell you that if you are even considering, like at some point, maybe I'm graduating in 6 months, maybe I'm going to start a different job, or maybe I know that I've been at this job long enough and now I'm going to be getting a raise. Like there's so many things in life that you can change and plan. And that if you know that at some point home ownership is a dream that you have,
Yes.
it is attainable.
Well, and a plan is power. It's a plan. Everybody talks about a goal. A goal is just a dream unless you write it down and have a plan to achieve it. That can be the same thing with home ownership.
I totally agree. And I think the sooner that you get a plan in place and that you have somebody who's trusted that can walk you through that process and say, you know what, maybe not this week you're ready to buy a house, but here's the plan of how we get you there. And how liberating would that feel to go, now I know what the next step is. And now I know that it's not nearly as scary as what I had thought it might be.
Even if somebody comes to me today and their credit doesn't qualify, we put them on a plan and I say, you know what? How quickly does 6 months fly by?
So true.
Follow this plan, do these steps, check in with me in a couple of months. We'll look at it again and we'll help you.
We'll partner with you.
We'll partner with you through this process.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up and kind of end, is that getting a great partner, getting the people that can help you put a plan in place, getting those partners that can actually look at your overall financial picture and tell you, hey, you're on the right track, or you're ready to go. I think there's a lot of people that think that they have to have a lot more than they have to have too.
Well, and over the last 2 years, the mortgage industry and the real estate market has just been crazy. And so a lot of first-time homebuyers out there have been fearful of jumping in. Now's the time to come back.
Okay, so this is, and not to speak specifically to markets because I don't want to, but to wrap this up, I also think that it's important to understand that your life and your timing is your own. And don't listen to the static of people telling you that this is a terrible time to buy or the best time to buy, or, look, if you actually take the time and look at what home ownership is for you and what that picture looks like, you might be shocked. I think people are so surprised to find out how attainable home ownership can be.
Well, and just think, if you buy a house now, how soon you will have built up equity over time, instead of waiting for another year or 2 or 3 for somebody else to tell you it's time. Find out for yourself if it's time for you.
Absolutely. I love it. So Howard, thank you so much. Hopefully, I know that was just scratching the surface of, really on the mortgage side and kind of even preparing to go look at homes. But I think that was so helpful, and just that understanding. And I have to tell you, it's so amazing to have such a great partner and somebody who shares the same feelings that I do, that, what we're here for is a resource. And we want to be empowering. We want to be somebody that can help, people get more information. Knowledge is so important when you're purchasing a home. And I think that people are sometimes just scared to even know or even understand where they can get that knowledge. So tell us kind of how they can find you. Give us your, give us all your info.
All my
give
stuff.
us the deets.
So I will tell you, education is my favorite part of my job. I run Cityscape Home Mortgage now, and so I don't get to directly help all the consumers, but I get to help educate, and I love it. So you can reach us on the web at cityscapehome.com. You can call our main office number of 918-622-0900. And your partners here can find us as well. And we'd be
If you find us, we'll
help.
get you connected with Cityscape. Amen. And this is important too. How much does it cost to get a pre-approval?
$0. We don't
I love that.
charge.
Wait, how much does it cost to get a pre-approval?
Nothing.
How much does it cost to get a financial plan to help you buy a house?
Nothing.
I love
free.
that.
It's free.
So this
We'll
is
give you a
something
free
that
credit analysis. We're going to give you a free plan, and we're going to give you the numbers and the plan to buy.
So even if you are listening to this, you don't even know why you stumbled onto this podcast today, and you were not even thinking that home ownership was attainable, this podcast was for you because it cost you nothing just to get an idea of what that dream of home ownership might look like. So I'm so grateful that you were here. Hopefully that was really great information for everybody else. I know that we could talk about this for hours and hours. We will do some follow-up sessions as well. We'll do some episodes that kind of takes it to the next step and what comes next after this piece. But if you're listening to this today and you're thinking that you've never even considered or you didn't know where to start in trying to get a plan together of what a home ownership might look like, this is a great place to start. So thanks for being here, Howard.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.